Okay, let's try its way. For anyone who's here yet, I did actually try picking up the old live stream, but I don't know how. Or maybe it wouldn't let me. I have no idea. Very much still learning. At least we're live now, so there's that. And one thing I stumbled across when I was doing this was how to pop out the chat. That makes it a lot easier on me. So it's all a learning thing. That's all you can ask for in life. I'd still like to use my desktop though. It is much more comfy for me. That's the thing about me. I might be slow, but I'm persistent. Yeah, I had to go back to the laptop. I don't know why I didn't like the desktop. It wasn't a sound thing because I tested out the sound on the desktop. I'm not sure. When I punched the going live or the go live button, it just hung up and said going live and just stuck there. And yeah, I have no idea. I might try to play with it on like an unpublished stream later tonight because I have an idea or two. I've never used my desktop before. In fact, I just got my mic working. It's been a whole thing. It's been a very computer weekend. That's why I wanted to do this to relax, but oh well. Hey, Eric. Hey, Jay. By the way, I'm a FUD. Actually, it reads your name as Emma FUD. My speech does, so I thought your name was Emma at first. As far as Kalash Bash, man, I don't. I mean, I would go if someone said, "Hey, you want to go with me?" But I mean, shit, I can't drive, so it's a lot of stuff's not up to me, frankly. We've been through this. I guess this is gonna be like an ongoing chat thing. No, there's no vision. If I don't have it, why should you? Besides, even if I had a camera, you would see a dark room because I don't have lights on in here. Why would I? I'm glad you liked the PPK video. I mean, I wish I had new ones to really talk about. I guess technically I did have one new PP in that video that plays straight in, but I just really like those guns. Unfortunately, my collection's kind of to the point that unless I get really lucky and get like an early 90-degree safety or something, and I actually did own a 90-degree safety once upon a time, but it wasn't really in the condition that I typically go for. So, I was able to sell it and make a little profit and let it go. Wasn't that cool? But if I found a really slick one, that'd be neat. Hey, Blake. I'm trying. I wasn't too late this time, only about 15 minutes, and I had to switch computers, so not bad for scrabbling. Luckily, I have my laptop in the room, so I didn't have to go pull it out of the bag and set it up. I just had to turn it on. Hey, Sunny Cat. Peanut's not in here yet. She'll probably join us later. Hello, Chris. I don't know if I'm green. I'm certainly short, though. Roller shake are great, and this is really like the time to be into them. Before, okay, we had the Archer, but that suffered from IO import. All the problems that were with archers, and none of them were bad, were directly because of IO. You see now with a good importer like Arms of America slash Atlantic, what they can be. The thing was just them. And then, of course, we had parts kits. And then, of course, we had Pioneer guns on and off. Also, our first imported by IO. Yeah, I don't think you're going to get much more in a black box. I did. Unfortunately, we can't show guns on here, or I probably would arrange something. So I don't know what I. Honest to God, I don't know what I would show you. I live in Arkansas. The WBP Fox or Jack, it's really just exact same gun, just slightly. There was only one we ever had issues with, and even that we fixed. Turns out it had been a little bit mushed in shipping, so the dust cover, even though it's a heavy duty one, was pinched, not visibly so, but enough that it was dragging on the bolt carrier. So every time the bolt carrier would go back, it would rub up against the dust cover and lose velocity. But AOA sent us a new top cover and new recoil spring and guide, just to be safe. And as far as I know, the gun is running fine. Hey Jeff. I didn't see that FNC on Gunbroker for 5, but that doesn't shock me. Those things have been up, down, and sideways, and it's not necessarily chronological. I've seen them back when the auto seers hit, they went up to 5K, lordy, 15 years ago, and then they dropped down to 3, and they've been all around. The funny thing is, there's this weird myth that there's fewer fixed stocks in the country than side folders. I vehemently debate this. I don't think it's true. I've seen way too many fixed stockers. I think it's just kind of one of those lore things that gets going. Now, keep in mind too, they did send over quite a few conversion kits to make actually make a side folder out of your fixed stalker. So that's part of it too. My thoughts on the Beryl 762. We've done a couple of videos. Probably revisit one. They're great. The ones we get are pretty much Nigerian contract spec. They are made in Poland. It kind of crapped me out that there was a little bit of a internet rumor that was trying to get going with some people that they were made in Nigeria. No, definitively made in Poland. The State Department would have a lot to say about that if guns marked made in Poland actually were coming from Africa. They would not like that. But no, they're made. But they are the spec, including the 16.5-inch barrel. That's the specification that they went with. They never made a mini Beryl in 762. Even the samples, they sent over a few samples to Nigeria were in 5.56. So aside from like maybe a tool room prototype, never say never, but even samples they shipped to customers, they never did a 762. Of course, they start, Michael. It's after daylight savings time. Instead of doing like a long Walther video, I could do like a super cut, just trim the edges off and put them together. That'd probably be more efficient. Actually, sitting down and talking about it over again would seem counterproductive. Um, so I could do that. But ooh, on Rewell versus a Tortort receiver. Oof. Okay, this might be the Gen Xer in me. When I got into AKs, I love mill guns. The Hungarian kits were everywhere and gorgeous. The PLO kits were everywhere. Some were attractive looking, some were well used and with character. Anyway, back then, no one was doing rewelds. You got a new US made receiver or a Bulgarian Arsenal receiver more often than not. The idea of rewelds, the thing is, if it's done correctly, it should be fine. But how do you know it's done correctly? Obviously, the answer is using someone of skill and quality. But the truth is, you're taking two pieces of steel, probably different types of steel, certainly from different batches. You're using heat, you're putting them together. My takeaway to break it down, if you want a shooter, I would use a Tortor. They look good and they're solid, one piece of steel machined. That's kind of the whole point of a milled gun. If you're just wanting a mostly wall hanger, not saying you can't ever shoot them, but a lower round count gun, then I would consider a reweld. But I wouldn't get a reweld expecting to put 10, 20,000 rounds through it. Just my personal opinion and feelings. Yeah, I said the BBP did the 545 gun. They had some, parts earlier. It'd be interesting to see how well they sell and kind of what they're doing there because the only 545 guns that Poland ever did were the Tantals, and they did what 20, 25,000, not many. And then they did a handful of Onyx guns in the caliber, but they quickly jettisoned those. And I think I'd be more interested if WBP actually did a Tantal clone in Sonata. That'd be pretty neat. Yeah, the 545 thing. I think they looked at the U.S. market. They saw Riley, Pimento State doing 545 guns. They thought, why not? It'll just be interesting to see how it holds out. Because historically, in the past, Wasser 2, SAR 2, Arsenal SLR 104, they haven't sold great after the initial rush. Even the SGL 31, aside from the time when you couldn't get 556 back in early to mid '09, they didn't sell as well as the SGL 21 overall. So we'll see. And keep in mind too, we're not going to get ammo from Russia, Ukraine, anything like that. Now, can other people make it? Yeah, but it's not as simple as putting a 556 bullet into a 760 by 39 casing. There's a little more to it than that. Romania is really our best hope for imported ammo. As far as Swiss imports, yeah, the 550s are the most recent ones. I've done a video on that. They were the all black ones, which are kind of cool because they're actually marked black special. So they're factory done. There are the silver ones, which are unique. We've never exactly had that look before, and there were the gray green ones, but those were the first to sell out. And there were a small number of the 550 DMP. As far as what's coming next year from Dave, I don't really know. I mean, with Swiss stuff, I'm going to tell you this: don't count your chickens until your eggs hatch. Yeah, an AR-10, AR-15 video is a thing. Actually, I'm planning on posting an SKS on Gunbroker tomorrow. I would have already done it, but I haven't had anyone here to take pictures, so picked it up last week. Chinese, Spiker bayonet. I believe it's all matching. If not, it's definitely majority parts matching. Yeah. Nice, attractive, kind of standard Chinese gun. And no, I don't remember which factory it is. Probably a 26. That's pretty common for those. But oddly enough, I've had quite a few SKSs this year. Oh, do 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 do. Fun fact, to get the microphone to work on my desktop, I just reinstalled Windows. I do like how easy it is to do now. Back in the day, anyone who remembers computing, reinstalling Windows or DOS was kind of an all evening affair. Now, it's not even half an hour, and you can preserve all your settings. So I just kind of find that every 6 months or a year, it's just kind of nice just to have a clean Windows install. But it made the microphone work because I recorded stuff. I just don't know. Well, again, I have a theory on maybe why that stalled out. I'll play with it later. I bet you I can get it to work. Might take me longer than I'd wish and more frustration than I'd like, but I bet I get it to work. Oh, the thumbnail I used in the other one. I didn't put it in here in case YouTube got. That was just, as you might understand, I don't have a lot of pictures on my computer. That was of my cat Oscar, the one who passed away a year ago. That was when he was a kitten. We did a video review about a year ago. It's around Thanksgiving. We shot on the WBP 556. It shot well. I mean, personally, I would still go with an FB Ratum Baril, but it is a modern look. If you really like the AKM look, the Jack slash Fox and 556 would not be good for you. My only reservations, the barrels were fine, but according to the importer, the next batch of guns has come in with a little bit improved barrels. They weren't blowing up on people, but they weren't happy with accuracy consistency. So the newer ones are supposed to be a little bit more precisely made barrels. Now keep in mind, I don't think they're still chrome lined. Could be wrong on that because I haven't really kept my finger on that pulse. Hey, bingo. Thanksgiving was pretty quiet. Just went down and saw family for a day. Probably gonna have to go back here either at the end of this week or next week and do some gun shooting. So, and then hopefully maybe spend a little more time around Christmas, New Year. Where are you gonna find a mullet RPK kit? Where are you gonna find a barrel? Where are you gonna find a receiver? That's the problem. On the 6.8 switch, I'll believe it when I see it. Unintended. How do I know about what I know about firearms? Yeah, I mean, I go on some websites, sure, but a lot of times it's just personal experience, especially with the AK stuff. The problem about the Enfield, the L85, the SA, uh, they're basically using them till they fall apart. They're already down to about half or less than what they originally built. Remember, they had the A1 and they had it rebuilt into the A2 under HK. They used them beginning a little bit in Desert Storm 1, then the Gulf War, then Afghanistan, plus, some events in Northern Ireland. They're wearing out. And once they're gone, they're gone. And one problem, especially with the original A1, was deterioration, breakdown of the plastics used. So my point is, you see those styro og kits? They're not very useful. These would be even worse and even more worn out. But also, no, I don't see Britain ever selling it to us in the first place. So, yeah, on the G Block Gray Ghost, some of them were just like straight up kind of that. What is it? Zinc phosphate. I know it's a different color. It has a different texture. Also, the earliest ones even had the black shiny plastic grips. I know this because I bought a Gray Ghost eons ago, and when I got it, I was disappointed it didn't have the chunky metal grips. And then I came to realize later, no, it actually had the correct grips for a G Block. You mostly see more and more French stuff afterwards, but even then, yeah, a lot of it was all kind of made right at the end and stuff, and leftovers. And the Grey Ghosts are really fun. I call them that. Yeah, I know it's not the real name, but it's a good shorthand. I like it better than quote Black Widow for those Lugers. By the way, I don't know. I hate self promoting, but if you could throw in a few bucks, that'd be helpful with Christmas coming on and all that good stuff. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I don't really like self promoting. By the way, my favorite finish is actually the dual tone. It's just cool. I mean, I know Rob. I mean, he told me that firsthand when I talked to him about it, that he had a good experience. But you got to remember, sample size of one. To do an actual scientific study, you'd need to get at least 10 from different batches, and I think it's just one of those things that they're all going to meet the standard of being able to hit a torso at 600 to 800 meters. But to the military, it really doesn't matter if it's a 1.5 MOA gun or a 2.5 MOA gun, as long as it does its job. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. And of course, ammo plays a huge part in it too. And of course, the shooter themselves. Are you good with an AK? The gun I've got was actually a friend's who shot it at competitions, and he was able to hit 800-meter targets with the freaking Yugo PAP. One of the, well, I guess it was still Serbian, but it was one of the early PAPs that came in. So that was 760 by 39. So if you're a good AK shot, you're a good AK shot. I agree. The PSLs are just, and to be fair, they were kind of always that way. If you ever worked at a gun shop back then, you get a pallet of 10 or 20 in, and they'd all be functional for the most part. But yeah, canted sights on some, not on others. Just, sloppy fit of the wood or tight fit. We have our first chat stop scrolling of the night. That's why I was trying to use the desktop. I was curious if it would have that same issue. Yeah, I've seen one SA80. I don't even know if those had the ATF approval. But yeah, with those small batch things, no one cares. You said the bricks. I think they're in the British. Good luck on working on that top break. Revolvers, it always cracks me up. People, they look at automatics like a Glock and they go, well, this isn't as reliable. Revolvers, it's simple. No, it's not. There are far more parts in a revolver. You know, if an automatic goes down, which is not very likely with our modern ones, frankly, they're pretty easy to fix or at least clear a jam. Revolvers really work well up until they don't. Then they often just lock the fuck up. And fixing one, yeah, they really are clockwork, especially double actions. And also, good luck on stripping that old nickel finish. I've never done it, but I had a really nice Russian TT-33, like 1941. Did some on nickel, but they did such a great job. Even the original proof stamps were still intact, and I considered stripping it, but I didn't. An M76 whose bolt is too tight. Um, who made the barrel? Who made the receiver? Um, what is a Patreon event, Nate? I'm not sure either. I mean, I have a Patreon. If you want to sign up over there, or you can do a super chat here, that'd be cool. Everything's appreciated. That's why I tell my wife I'm doing these. I'm reading your questions right now, Stephanie. Although technically, I'm not reading them. My robot that lives in my computer is basically like Stephen Hawking. Thanks, Sunny Cat. But I'm not buying a hot dog. Maybe a Polish sausage. Yeah, Henry's opinion on the PSL, far less. He and I have talked about doing a Dragonov video all year, but yeah, it's just this year has just flown by. It seems like every time you sit down for new stuff, you just can't keep up with the old. What year is your SVT 40? I would really, really like to get a couple of thousand rounds of 545 because some of my favorite guns that I own are in that caliber. On the M90 versus Burrell, check out my top six AK questions. I kind of went into that in detail. Spoiler alert: if you have money, get the Burrell. If not, don't feel bad about getting the Sestava. It's a really good value, but I kind of trust the Burrell to hold up longer. Not to say the M90 is going to break on you, but you know what I mean. It's like comparing Bushmaster AR to I don't know, a Daniel Defense or a LMT or something. Both are going to work, but one I'm kind of feel like it's going to last a little longer. Oh, what will be worth more? Easily the Baril. Those come in much smaller numbers than the Zastavas. What does not cheap mean, Scott? No, I was trying to be clear, but if I wasn't saying that I know of rewelds failing. But you asked my opinion, and I just kind of gave it. Theoretically, it's more likely. The thing is, it really just comes down to the skill of the rewelder. If he's doing a good job, I wouldn't worry. But there's not really a way to test it. You know, it's good or it's not. I have heard and even had a customer show me a screw build back when those were popular, coming apart in his hands while shooting. So that was probably a pants shitting experience. Tried to warn him against screw welds. He listened to me after that. Bingo. I think I've got 2 Walther PPs left. If you want one, you got my email. Hit me up. I can set one aside for you. As far as the French Manurins, yeah, I talked about in the video, but they were made under license. Those in the PPKs, and then later the P1s, starting around 52, 53 that time period. They're the same. The German ones were built with Manurin machined parts. They were just shipped over incomplete and fitted together and blued and proof tested in West Germany. I have no idea what next year is going to hold. I can barely keep up with this year. Yeah, I mean, if he's at 550, 600 for 1,000 rounds, if he would come down to like 450, especially if, a couple of thousand rounds are bought, I'd probably do that. But once you cross over the 2 shots for a buck range, it loses some allure. But I'm also not delusional. The days of 10, 20 cents a round are long over. Hammer follow on a Chinese talk. Yeah, I mean, it could be the hammer pack. I don't know. Of course, you get one. Will it fit? Because those are kind of fitted parts at the factory. That's why they're serialized. But could just be a worn part. Or sometimes I've seen guns where people tried to quote unquote improve the trigger pull and they removed a little too much material. I had an AR 180 like that years ago. Bought it, came home with it, went to shoot it, and it went because someone tried to improve the trigger and they improved it a little too much. Good thing, bad habit. Well, the reason you don't see the flunky is it didn't make it. So yeah, there's a lot of those that if they didn't make it, sometimes they only produce the ones for the trials. That's actually a really good question on the P88, P88C. I mean, I own both. A lot of it just has to do with elegance. The P88C is a more conventional, kind of blockier gun. The P88's got a lot more machining. It's got the multi-control. It just feels, and while the P88C is no slouch in the accuracy department. No, no, no. The P88 is known for being one of the more accurate service sidearms out there. They just feel, one of them feels really nicely done, and the other one feels like a more standard gun, if that makes sense. And it has more conventional controls. And keep in mind, the P88C was not cheap in its day either. What really hurt the P88 in America, it was expensive. And then after the magazine limit in '94, it was hard for any gun because remember, it was part of the Wonder Nine movement in the '80s. So it being able to hold 15 rounds was part of its bag. So that's really one thing that really hurt them once you go down to 10 rounds. And some other guns, they could go over to 10 rounds of 40 Smith& Wesson, but the P88C wasn't going to be able to handle 40 Smith& Wesson. At the end of the day, the P88 was a failed competitor in the XM9 trials. That's where its genesis was. Also, around that time, ownership and direction of the Walther company changed. And that's why you see the P99, which in a lot of ways is just a polymer framed P88. I mean, it's not the same, but you get my drift. Even the magazines were very similar originally. Yeah, if that was worth a buck or two, you could do a super chat. Again, I gotta do this. You know how it goes. I freaking hate it. But the cat jumped on me and told me to. But We'll probably revisit the P88 and P99s. I don't know. I've been doing the Walther thing. No, I didn't hear the rumor about the Vista ammo thing. Ooh, 1944. That's a very low rate year production. Technically, there were some 1945s, but in reality, 44 was the last year of production. That's kind of cool. Thanks, you, Nate. Ooh, favorite 32 pistols. I do, I do really enjoy them. They're just so neat. I don't think as I said before, I'm not really a favorites person. I will give a couple though. The Savage 1907, especially the French contract, for just being the first in so many ways, is neat. The Mauser HSC, or even the 1914, that thing had some really neat features for the day. But I would have to say the most over-engineered and in some ways coolest would maybe be the Sauer 38H. That's a really neat one. But then I do kind of like the look of a lot of the French guns. Um, and then I'm thinking of the Berettas. This is why I can't pick favorites. Sorry, but they are neat. I just like the little 32s. They're so fun. You can pick one up so cheap. Even now, they're not crazy expensive. Oh yeah, a Savage and 45. Yeah, they did make some. They're not like all from the trials, unfortunately, but still pretty cool though. I might have just figured out a way to make the chat work. Don't want to jinx myself though. We'll see. I'll be honest, I'm thinking about the 45 Savage. I mostly like issue pistols. It's interesting to study prototypes and failed contenders, but as far as owning, I I can't like if you said you can either own a Savage in 45 or an original 1911. Even though the original 1911 is far more common, I'd have to go with it because that's what the doughboys had in the trenches. I think the Savage is really neat though, and luckily we get a lot of the 32s, which also are used by the French and a few others. Portugal comes to mind, so that'll work. Yep, the Berlin police had those P4s. I do mention them. In fact, there's a pretty good breakdown of exactly where each one went. They only used them for like 5 years though, but it had to do with international stuff, and because of Berlin, its location and technically occupied territory with the whole little thing, they weren't supposed to use German-made guns. They needed to be imported guns. So their solution was Walther made the parts in Germany. They sent them to Munir in France. It's the reverse of what happened with the PPK. But it worked and satisfied the need, and it also gave them the common sidearm of the rest of the Germans, the Bundeswehr, the police, border guards. Thanks, Bingo. The one downside being on the laptop, I don't. It'll be easier if I check my email once I'm back on my desktop. It's a better model. This laptop has been a great machine. I've used it for over 4 years now, and it only has 8 gigs of RAM. And for my speech, it technically requires 12. So the fact that it's working at all, not to mention, I don't want to push it. It's been a great PC or desk laptop, whatever, but it really needs more memory. I got it with Windows 10. Now it's got 11 on it, and I started with a different version of my speech. It only required 4 gigs of memory, but in 4.5 years, things have progressed. Yeah, CZ Cult. Uh, Not to give things away, but I can say people at the top of CZ, they're being very slow and very diligent, but they do want to make changes at Cult, and I wish them the best. And I appreciate their strategy of not rushing in, kind of taking things slow, doing analysis, asking people. Hey, Warsaw. Your name Warsaw sent my mind down a path thinking of the band Joy Division. No, I don't think I've handled a Soviet Type 2 rig like that. Of course, maybe I hadn't, just didn't know the name of it. That's one downside of me being me, is I can't look at pictures online to know sometimes what stuff is, and random things come in gun shops. When you say they're correct down to the buffer tube, what do you mean? I haven't had one of the HRA guns, so I really don't have an opinion. Wouldn't mind trying one out though. Bingo. I'm just going to assume you mean the band like me and not other things. Of course, you'd have to be like 90 to remember the other things. Yes, I'm fully aware of the original name's meaning. Yeah, see, the XM16E1, I would be really interested in because that's I ultimately sold that one from Brownells that came from Chris Bartacci because it looked the part from 2 foot away, but then you get up close and I had the the flashing on the front sight base. It I get it. The things that matter to me would not matter to most people and would significantly add to cost. So their decisions were correct. But for me personally, I'm a go correct or go home person when it comes to clothes. Ah, like the red wine buffer. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. See, if you're doing an E1 clone, it really should have the old school buffer tube with the wrench holes in the base. Yeah, and I excuse him for not having the exact right polymer to make the furniture. That stuff I do. That doesn't bug me. It's like not getting the exact right shade of gray. That I will excuse. Heck, I don't even mind that the Troys were Cerakoted gray. That kind of stuff just that's just modern manufacturing and nothing you can do about it. We'll see. On the band thing, I'm not. I'll be honest. I'm not worried about a national band. That's probably a phrase that'll come out to bite me in the butt. But there's so many states that, and again, what would you ban? Where would you go? How are you going to do it? Who's going to pay for it? And even if it gets that far, what about its challenges in court? Uh, so far, the courts have kind of been our friends. Hope that continues. But a lot of gun laws get struck down because they're pretty pathetically written. Yeah, Bakelite's just kind of a material of the past. It was really good for what it was, but it also has downsides. I really would like to get a hand on that HNR, whatever you call it, Chris. It's just time. I just hadn't thought about it. If one comes my way, that'd be neat. Or if PSA reaches out. I think he means fake Bakelite, Fakeolite. No. But are we? Are we really following the footsteps like Canada? We're very different countries in some ways, very similar in others, but very different. Keep in mind, in Bill Clinton's autobiography, he admitted that the crime bill, which the assault weapons ban is part of, was the worst mistake of his political career. And then consider other things that Bill Clinton did in his political career. It's a losing proposition for politicians, and they know it. Now, talking about bans is good for some of them, but actually doing them leaves them very vulnerable on the next election cycle. 2010 Wasser, that should be fine. It's the 2008s and some of the 2009s. By 2010, they were getting better again. Honestly, if I got an H&R and I kept it as an XM177, I'd just put an original handguard on it. Uh, that kind of things I'm willing to do. Yeah, that's to me, it's a texture thing. That kind of shiny. Part of that is just age. When they were brand new out of the factory, they weren't quite as shiny, but they're still a lot shinier than the modern plastic. A lot of those bans are just like a lot of the impeachments we've seen on both sides. They're feel good stuff. They're things they can point to when election season comes around to go, I tried to do something. I did it. I'll remind you too on the other side of the Hearing Safe Act in 2016. Funny how that just quietly disappeared in 2017. That was bad for us. And on the other hand, a lot of assault weapons bans. There's a big rah rah call for 'em. And then that's it. They don't even make it to the floor. They don't make it even not just out of committee, but even into committee sometimes. I think the federal government's realized with that stuff, leave it up to the states, takes the heat off their back. You can let certain states pass them if they want, and others not. Because I just don't see states like Texas or Arkansas here ever abiding by that. Heck, you get a lot of rule breakers in New York that won't abide by it. And that's saying something. Yeah, Cole, you're right, because Canada had a lot of gun restrictions for a long time. Florida's too hot for me. Do I have a different form of thinking? I don't know. How do you think? I would say every human probably has a different form of thinking. That's what makes us different people. There's too many guns in America. If they wanted to confiscate all the guns, can you imagine what it would cost to pay law enforcement to go collect them? And on top of that, that's just if everything went smoothly. You know, not long if they started that, there would be resistance and shootings, and there'd be an old woman lying dead or a Iraq vet, and that would make the news even for like CNN. It wouldn't work, and they know it. The optics would end up terrible. And for what end? This is what's funny. When guns are privately owned, most of them are under lock and key. If you were to collect them and then take them to depots, that's where they would get stolen and go missing. If you've got, say, 20 guns at home, you're an average gun collector, maybe a little above, you know where your 20 guns are. But if you're a local depot that's collecting hundreds of thousands of guns, no way would you notice 10, 20, even 100 going missing out the back door. That's exactly what would happen. And we've seen it before. Look at Afghanistan. I'm not going to Florida. Too hot, too humid for me. Yeah, I gotta kind of go with the power vacuum thing. Plus, it's not that simple. We have friends, we have family, we have connections, we have jobs. Moving, some people can move, but most can't. Definitely not offensive. I don't think it makes my senses heightened, but I do think it makes me pay more attention to them, if that makes sense. No, I really don't give a shit. Oof, on that. I'm gonna go with the Commando only because we tried doing a video on that. Go check it out. It went fantastic. Oh yeah, bingo. Yeah, people forget. Idaho, Montana, Utah. Those places still exist, and that's Warsaw. Why I've always shipped to banned states whenever possible. California, Massachusetts. Massachusetts, in my opinion, is the worst state. California gets all the news, maybe New York after them, but Massachusetts, that is just terrible. Shit, Scott. Sometimes I can't find all the guns in my own house, even when I'm trying. I have cats, yes. Oh, I'm sure the ATF did. I'm very sure they did because they're a government agency. People forget too that California was very much a Western frontier place, even into the 50s and 60s. And that's actually how Hollywood got started out there. Because originally the film industry was in New York and adjacent areas, New Jersey. It was felt to be too restrictive. So folks went out there to be independent. And of course, San Francisco had been a town for a very long time. But it's a shame that people kind of have the attitude about San Francisco today because historically it was a cowboy town. It was a Wild West town and really interesting, an interesting place of where to get a good meal and a cold drink and some good whiskey when you couldn't elsewhere. But of course now it's all changed. But it's really only changed in the last 50 years or so. Yeah, Nate. I don't think you can blame one person for anything the size of California falling apart. And that's the case on anything. Whenever people try to blame one person, I don't want to say it's always a scapegoat, but if you notice, people have a tendency to want to blame an individual versus a group or an organization, an amorphous body. My dreams are fucked up. Then again, maybe I did a little too much LSD in the college years. Or maybe I should say LDS, because Star Trek 4 was a really funny film. No, I don't think there anything with Russia is going to be lifted anytime soon. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are still like North California. Self audits, you mean like what's in stock? I mean, of course. I usually do that to see what's left because I have a tendency, let's say I've got 10 of a gun. When I know I'm getting down to the last couple, I'll stop listing them or selling them, and then I'll kind of find them later and realize, oh shoot, I've got a couple of those left. That actually happened with the Segas and the Vipers for a while once those got sanctioned out of existence. Of course, yeah, I always check, but it's mostly just to see, hey, what's in the corner I can sell. And of course, the ATF does that. They come in and any gun on your books they want to see. I would argue a traditional definition of liberal would be everyone, every idea. Live and let live. Well, and bingo, that's why we honestly need both parties. If you had a state that was only dominated by Republicans, it wouldn't be all that great either. You do need both. It's a push and a pull, it's a pendulum. And unfortunately, California has swung way too far to one side, which is a little ironic considering they've had a lot of Republican governors. I'm pretty sure anyone who can afford multiple NFA items has a pretty good security system and or safe slash vault. Salty, I talk about this from time to time on my personal channel. So, I mostly do black boxes and whatnot. I was laughing at what you said, bingo. Yeah. That's actually what I meant to say, and then I just kind of screwed it up. So, I tells you how often I say the phrase LSD. I was trying to reverse it in my head and reversed it twice. Support gear that I'm interested in. I'm not into uniforms or helmets, but I do like web gear. Sometimes holsters, definitely mag pouches, sometimes belts. And I've actually got quite a large number of field jackets, Russian, American, a few others. Not really as a collection, I just kind of wear them. Warsaw, your words are now marked. Then get drunker, bingo. Then everything agrees. Hey, bingo. Yeah, when I'm done with this, I will pop over to my email and shoot you back. You must get really thirsty if you don't drink. It's always struck me as kind of funny that we always say drinking, and of course, we mean alcohol. But I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of funny if you think about it. Yeah, people wonder how I have the guns I have. A lot of it was in college and that exact decision of I could go out with my friends to the bar or club this weekend, or I could buy a Mosin Nagant. Guess which one I picked? Guess how? Guess who still has a perfectly okay liver? Not great, but okay. Scott, I don't know how common they are today. Back in the day, they were out there. I don't really think they were paratrooper. I mean, I know I've called them that too. When I remember, a lot of them were just used by West Germany in the G1s. Either way, they were neat. I only have a couple myself, but you just kind of got them in. They kind of just came in with batches of mags because the mags are cheap enough. You order 10 mags, you might get an alloy. Warsaw, help me out. What's an AK striker fired system? If you're an undergrad, I would say make sure you go out and have fun. No stage in life will ever come again. And now that's not to say you're in the best stage or the worst or whatever. Just each stage is different. But like everything else, it's a balancing act. Spend some money to go with friends, go out, have fun, or have friends come over. Yeah, that's the thing to do too. If it's expensive to go out, have friends come over and do a meal, potluck, or drinks or whatever. You can do a lot at home for a lot less and still have a lot of fun. But also, yeah, if there's a way to put a little money towards your future, yeah, why not? I mean, who knows? In my case, if I hadn't picked up that SAR-1 back in college, if I'd got into AKs the way I did. Observer, I'm not sure what YouTube's rules are. Shoot me an email too. It's Ozark, Ozark, Bear, Bear, like the animal, Arms, ARMS, Ozark Bear Arms, at gmail.com. And I'll let you know. I need to see what I've got in it too, because I bought it with about 6 or 7 other things. Oh, okay. I didn't see you mention the QBZ Warsaw. Oh, I completely agree. I wish we got more Type 81s for that matter. Yes, I know there's a few 81Ss, very few number. I like unique guns. Heck, I would go for a semi-auto Type 63, the little SKS AK clone. We got some of the mags for them, but that would be kind of cool. When Chinese clone things, okay, I'm fine. But when they do their own thing, that's when I really become interested. Yes, Nate, there was the 86S, but that was just a straight AK. What he's talking about is a little bit of a different critter, and it was more military used. The 86S really wasn't a military gun. Yeah, yeah, getting some 5.8 might be tricky. Although when the very first 545 guns came in, they were actually those East German border guard, like Berlin Wall guns, the bolt guns, and they actually sold them with the ammo because that was really about the only way you could get it. Now, very soon they started importing ammo on its own around 95, but there was a minute there when those guns, those bolt guns, were about the only way to get the ammo and vice versa. So it kind of reminds me of that situation. Heck, I remember when the 5.7s, like the PS90s, came out, and a lot of manufacturers would ship them with 200 rounds of ammo, just so you had some 5.7 ammo. Hey, Dan, yeah, an 81 would be cool. I'm not really sure they're all that legal in Canada now either. I don't think the 81's all that common in Canada. I know they have them, but I don't think it's that common of a gun. I'm gonna stand up for a second, guys. Need to stretch my legs. Oh, at least we got going eventually. Um, a little late than never. Like I said, I'll work on the desktop, making it work soon. Oh, been sitting for way too long. guess that was potable water. I don't really like sodas. Never really have had a taste for them. And that was a table, a folding table. In fact, while I'm up, I'm gonna sit my headphones down for just a second and use the restroom. Be right back. Alrighty. Started to move around and my body reminded me. Oh, what did I hit? Yeah, I've had those Norinco 1911s before. My friend actually owned one for a long time and had nothing but good things to say about it. I've let's see, what do I own? Right, I guess I had three KUSA guns, and I've been happy with all of them. The side folders are plenty strong. They've got the the 5.5 hinge pin, and original Russian stocks will fit them. So even if you're worried about the U.S. made copies not working, put a Russian on there. Bada boom, you're good to go. But they're pretty strong the way they lock up on those. And I know in the beginning the fixed stocks didn't have the CHF barrel, but I don't know today if it's only the side folders that have them or not. I always wanted the side folder because it's an AK-103. Technically, there is a fixed stock AK-103, but I don't know. Kalashnikov concern has probably built like two of them. As the vast majority of AK-103s are folders. It's funny you said that, Jim, because I heard the same thing back when the SGLs were coming in, the 21s and the 31s. But people wanted the 61 variant, which is a fixed stock. So when the 94s, later 95s came out. A lot of people didn't really see the purpose. I mean, if you convert a Sega 12 properly, correctly, you're not going to hurt anything. Stocks are useless. Hey, that's my attitude about iron sights, or any sights for that matter. Hey, Chris. Yeah, it's working. I think I figured out a way to scroll the chat. I have to do it manually, but it's a lot easier than when I was doing last time. See, each time I'm learning. Now, the trick is remembering what you learn next time. Burma? Not really. What do you mean exactly? I'm sorry, I really don't know about the Lithuanians. I would say there was another big source of guns from Europe in the 50s that would be inner arms out of Finland, and a lot of guns ended up in Finland because of all the wars. So there, yeah, inner arms was a really big importer. You feel like all AKs should be folders. Spoken like a man who's not fired many underfolders. Underfolders look so cool. I'll shoot my fixed stock most of the time. Now the left side folder was really where Russia nailed it. It was lighter, easier to make, but also really, really durable. The way they did it, because the stock actually folds inside the rear trunnion, so it's pretty much supported 360 degrees. You'd have to really be trying. Heck, they even put a reinforcing plate on the pistol grip. Well, I mean, the whole AR with the folding stock thing is honestly a bit of a commercial gimmick. It's not really a military thing. Okay, Burma. Hey, gotcha. Gotcha. I didn't know when you said that. I don't know. I was thinking like old school bolt actions and single shots. I don't know. You said Burma. It's just where my head went. Yeah, I mean, as underfolders go, they're out there. You know, you can get Polish ones. You can get Serbian slash Yugoslavian ones. You can get Romanian ones. Yes, I have an M76. I always intend on bringing the M76 out, but typically what we do, this goes back to the days of Jay and everyone. We'll say, okay, we're bringing these calibers. We try to limit it to 3 to 4 calibers. It's never 8 millimeter. That's just the reality. The reason that the SVD and PSL have come out is because other guns shoot 54R that we've got. I mean, I could bring out a Mauser bolt action, but none of my people I shoot with right now are really into bolt actions. And so, I don't know, it seems kind of for me to bring one out just for me. And to be fair, when I got into guns, I mostly shot bolt actions. So, kind of feel like I put my time in there too. An AK that I'd like to see is the Albanian derivative. I'll be honest, I'm just happy we got those North Korean kits. That I really didn't know if we'd ever see them. Yep, Mausers were very, very widespread. Look at that Indiana Jones video I did. Look, especially the Last Crusade part. And those are just the ones in that film. It worked. It was a good action. And because of the way World War One ended for the Germans, a lot of the tooling and machinery and even just guns got spread throughout Europe. Vietnam's not just switched to the Ilial Ace, but they've had licensed production being set up. Now that's a thing. Now will they actually get rid of the 56s or just put them into storage? Who knows? But no, they've been switching over to the Ilial for a few years now. I said last live stream I'd like to have IWI USA do a Vietnam commemorative or just limited edition version of the Ace set up like the Vietnam one because I think it's a really cool blend of old and new. Oh yeah, Albania definitely had a lot of Chinese guns and a lot of Chinese gun influence. Yeah, Kosovo and all. Yeah, they had pretty much everything. A lot of East German, a lot of former DDR, a lot of East German stuff ended up over there too. I can always tell stuff that came out of the former Yugoslavia because the Cosmoline they used has a unique smell to it. Smells like someone took a crayon and melted it. Yeah, I would too. And the thing is, where would they get rid of them? I guess if they had someone willing to pay good money for them, they might do it for financial purposes. But other than that, yeah, and that's where they started off. Originally, Vietnam had straight up Galil Aces, but they were only used by a few special forces like the Naval Marines, units like that. And then after kind of that pilot program, they went to making their own variants. My sarcastic answer: the biggest answer to the U.S. The U.S. As far as that rival, I think is a better term, and that would definitely be China. Russia wants to be a danger, but it's not. The Cold War changed the global paradigm. I mean, that's what happens though. World War One changed the Victorian paradigm, the Pax Britannia, that had been in place really since the end of the Napoleonic Wars. And then you had the interwar period, and then World War II set the stage for the Cold War, and then you had the post Cold War period, and we're kind of in phase two of that. And yeah, I mean, after Napoleon, keep in mind it did lead to a lot of peace and prosperity for Europe. That's always the potential. If people kind of learn the lessons, that's the question. The lessons have been shown and been taught. Do people want to take heed, or do they want to keep making the same mistakes as before? The Cold War ended, and anyone trying to live in that paradigm is living in the past, and that's never a good recipe. What is that doing? Is a cat helping me? Hang on. Hmm. Oh. Hmm. I think the issue here is and I'm not trying to be derogatory, but just for lack of a better term, the boomer generation is not only living longer than previous generations as a whole, but also hanging on to their jobs longer. And so you have a group of people that grew up in a very specific mindset. Even the ones that want to change, you can only change so much. A North Korean Type 58 would be neat, but it just pretty much looks like a slightly rougher made Russian Type 3. It's not really, I don't want to say it's not really special, but I guess what I like are unique features. And it doesn't really have any unique features. Yeah, I don't know anything about really anything rally defense. Sorry. I don't know. Just it really, I don't know what parts kit they used either. Was it a parts kit or did they take like a Sega 308 or a Pepper 308 and build off it? I'm not sure what you mean by Marlboro. Sorry. Oh, yes, I'm aware of that Chinese submachine gun. Yeah, in 64 was an interesting year in China too. Relations with Russia were breaking down again. You know, they broke down in the 50s, very late, early 60s. And then they warmed up a slight bit, but even they knew it was a temporary thing. That's why they rushed to get any technology they could from Russia, sending teams over, and then of course they broke down again. Hey, Britannia Willie. Yep, I'm doing well. Just thought I'd do this tonight. Had a little bit of a rocky start, but fuck if I know on the Zastava rail. That's more of a question for Fox. I don't get a lot of that stuff. Okay, M77. That makes sense. Yeah, I didn't. I don't know why my mind went to Sega's. Yeah, using as a Zastava to build off of makes perfect sense. You would definitely know if it was an M77 because it would use M77 mags. Either the early type, which were 5 or 10 rounds, and then they also did the later type that has one last thing about the current Zastavas are the extra mags. That was kind of a downfall to the M77s. Croatia made AK mags, but they definitely depot repaired AKs. I've seen that, but no, I don't believe they made their own because that would have been pre. Uh, HS Product was really one of their first firearms companies, and they got started with the PHP, which led to the HS95, which led to the HS2000, which was the XD in America. The PHPs are interesting guns. Salty, I think you lost me. If someone was giving me shit, I am unaware of it. I kind of always wanted a Bulgarian Shipka submachine gun, partially because it was in 9x18 Makarov, and partially because it was named after a brand of cigarette. Oh, then yeah, I don't. I mean, we all kind of screw each other over and do that. But when it's inadvertent and a misunderstanding, that's just humans. But when people maliciously, actively, intentionally fuck people over, I and not just do it, but not only don't feel shame over it, but gloat about it. That's what I don't understand. Shit, if you're gonna do that, at least have the soul, the morality to feel ashamed. Yeah, Shipka is also a brand of cigarette in Bulgaria. Yeah, on the Asian contracts, I looked at the kits, looked at the rifle, talked about it, even talked about it in this live. Really, really cool. I mean, normally I would like an original barrel gun, and always an import's better than a parts gun. But in a situation where neither are possible, they did the best job they could. And my gun actually runs well. I'm not going to go out and run it every day, but put a couple hundred rounds to it just to make sure it ran, and it ran fine. And it's got a nice battlefield look, not too beat up. I believe all my serials match. There may be one or two not, but the big ones do. No, I'm happy with it. We're gonna hang out here for about another 15-ish minutes. Call it quits about 10. Sorry again for the late start, but tried to stay a little later. I was planning on staying about 9:30, but since I fucked around, but did find out, which is good. Learned some things tonight. Mostly how to scroll the chat, which was good, and it's kind of getting more convenient. But anyone wants to pop in a couple of bucks, that would be helpful. Also, ask any questions. And wish there was something super new to talk about in the gun world, but I didn't see anything on Black Friday that caught my attention. Really, did you guys? Then again, I'm not really looking for anything. So Warsaw, you must be new around here. Yeah, FALs. I've talked about them a bunch. That's actually what I got into way before AKs because those were the kits you could get in the 90s, early 2000s, and you could put them together in your garage. No welding, not even riveting really needed. You could have had your pick. I remember an expensive kit with barrel was $300, and that was good. That would have been like a Steyr SGG 58. A cheap kit was $100 or less. That would be like a South African, some of the Israelis, some of the Inbels, that kind of thing. And you could get really good receivers. DSA was at the top of their game. I think that's when LMT was still making their receivers for them. And you could get Inbels, you could get some Argentinian receivers, or you could get Hess. They're around too. And then also Kunin DC was good back then before that went tits up. But I love the FAO. There's just not much to talk about. New kits in. I'll be honest, it's not. I mean, I do like AKs, obviously, but I've got a pretty eclectic interest when it comes to guns. I talk about AKs because that's what people want me to talk about. I try to diversify, but AKs are the things that people really want to ask about. So I try to balance doing what I want with what's popular, and it works out okay. More reliable in Vietnam, sort of. Also, keep in mind they were a lot longer and heavier, and they could carry less ammo too. That's why you saw the cut down version, often called the bitch rifle by the Aussies. The L2 they had was, of course, select fire, but their L1A1s, like the British, were generally speaking single shot at a time, self loading, hence the SLR name. Pros and cons, pros and cons. But the M16, while it had some teething problems early on, by 67 to 69, that time period, really had grown into its own. And if you read any reports about the M16 screwing up in Vietnam, they're first-hand reports. I don't mean hearsay from a gun show. First, it's almost all in like 1965, 66. By the end of the decade, they've worked out 9 out of 10 of its problems. Oh yeah, a lot of people grabbed AKs. Yeah, I would say HK and an Aimpoint are definitely some noteworthy Black Friday purchases. The MR556 is cool. It is. I don't know. To be honest, no, I haven't shot that P38K. I had one of the faux P38Ks years ago, and I shot it. It was the one where the front sight was on the barrel. It was just made from a P1. And to be honest, no, I didn't really notice much of a difference. Because again, the grip, the slide are identical, really. Yep, the P90, PS90 is just a cool little gun because it's all new. New gun design, new magazine design, new projectile bullet design. Heck, even the ring sight, you could argue, was a new optics design. Of course, all with the understanding of for 1989, 1990, 1993, when it was really under development. And it's amazing how quick it went into service that they actually used a few of them in Desert Storm, the original. I don't feel anything about the Grand Power in NIMAC because I haven't got hands on one. I mean, Makarov is basically 380, a little bit hotter, a little bit wider of a bullet, but I think the question for the jackhammer is definitely better left to Fox. I don't know. That's not my bag. CC75 is cool. Um, Definitely kind of put the CZ name on the map in a lot of ways. I'm trying to think. Really was one of the first Czech guns we had available in America. It's the Tokarev. Question. What's your favorite? Which one do you like? Are arsenals overrated? I don't know. Depends who's doing the rating. They haven't changed really, despite what the internet says. They're about like they've always been. Yeah, if someone gets one gun with a ship finish or a cannon sight, that sucks. But there's always been that. The difference is and they were always spendy. But yeah, it's hard to touch one for under 2,000 now, new, and that hurts. It really does. Then again, it's hard to touch an AK for much under 1,000 now. So, eh. And they always were about double what a Romanian was. When the Wasser was 350 retail, maybe 400. Arsenals were at least 600, 650. So I guess in some ways they've just kind of kept up, but it does feel like the creep has happened a little more with them than other brands. Luke, what do you mean? Eh, Luke, yeah, I don't know. My speech just read it like Tom Sawyer. Um, Chris, I don't have my Wolf A1 upper. They're called, I ended up trading it for a T91 tactical gun, and I love it because it's as correct as it can be. It's on a Taiwanese lower, Taiwanese parts kit. Of course, U.S. made barrel, but it's from a Taiwanese mandrel. It's to the correct profile. It even has the Magpul. Is it M-lock? I believe handguard. I've got both the simple rear side and the carry handle. Right now, it's got the simple one on it. I've even got a couple of the mags. My only kind of thing, I don't really care for the OEM sling. It's a little big and bulky, and I just have it for completeness' sake, if I'm being honest. Well, the barrels that AOA has been shipping have all had threads. I believe they're HEPA. I don't know. I believe they're 14 mil. They've always threaded because they use a U.S. muzzle device and they screw it on. So they've always done that. Now, the original WZ96s had a muzzle device that was literally pinned on with two cross pins. It was attached just the same as, say, a gas block. And the idea was A, it's very stable for grenade launching. B, it's very stable for accuracy. And C, it was internally threaded for a blank fire device. So they really didn't have a need to remove it because it did everything they wanted it to do. And for its size and weight, it's a very effective muzzle compensator. Norinco MDN86 FE FAG HD18 HD18. The Noricos, like we talked about with a lot of the Chinese stuff, and remaining sometimes they're really nice. Of course, a lot of the Chinese are in 308 too, which the problem there is magazines in some parts, but mostly mags. And any Chinese gun you buy now is going to be used. How is it treated? Well, shittily. An HD18 you could buy new. So if you're comparing dollars to dollars, say they're basically the same price, and the HD18 has a brand new optic, couple of mags, takes regular SVD mags, is in the original caliber. But I fully admit there's a bias there because I like Russian guns over Chinese. I mean, I don't hate Chinese, but if you give me a choice between an AK from Russia or an AK from China, and no, I'm not saying Dragonovs or AKs, just an example, I'm going to take the Russian one. I have no idea what Salty is slinging. An Arsenal or an IWI? Which caliber? 5.56 or 7.62 39? Yep. And I understand for a U.S. market, it's kind of like how I said about the Hellion, the VHS2. One has a removable grip that's AR-15 compatible. Did the original VHS have that? No, but interchangeable grips is just a common sense thing for the American market. So, and yeah, like you said, you didn't even know they were there, so that's okay. Hey, besides IO, literally half the time, put those muzzle brakes on upside down with the Archer. So there you go. IO was not very bright. That's not right. IO was not that they weren't very bright. They just didn't care. IO didn't care. Yeah, for a while on the T91, the Wolf Uppers, T91 Tactical had some correct style front sights with the bayonet lug, the right front sight base, and even the small pick rail that would fit the Wolf A1 profile barrel. I have no idea if Sean still has any of those, but they did make them for a while. 5.56. I would go with the Ace. I actually like my Arsenal Sam 5, but we have to acknowledge the issues they've had with it. I don't think they're insurmountable. I really don't. But the Galil Ace doesn't have those issues. Plus, it's got better rail options straight out of the box. Yeah, I'd have to go with the Ace, and it's probably a little cheaper too. Hey, Space Cat. Uh, I've actually seen quite a few of the older generation already selling their guns. I picked up quite a few. I'm not sure Gen Z doesn't want guns. Um, I think a lot of the people want to blame video games for corrupting youth, but I've actually met a lot of younger people that got into guns because of video games, and they know their historical guns. I've met 25-year-olds that know some of their gun history more than a 50-year-old. It's pretty cool. It might be just textbook learning, but it's still pretty great. And a lot of your baby boomers were kind of fuds, guys. I mean, some of them got into the cool guns and whatnot, but a lot of them, they only wanted a gun for hunting, and that was it. So don't forget that. The Brio muzzle brake, was it 6 holes? And yeah, they're asymmetrical because of how recoil works and the torque of a bullet coming out of a rifle barrel. So your top holes are favoring the right, which effectively pushes the gun to the left and down, which is better at countering recoil than just 12 o'clock up and down holes. They still would work that way. But yeah, fun fact, the first run of US made muzzle brakes that AOA did, the manufacturer screwed up and put the holes on the left side. They were offset. They weren't vertical, but they offset them to the wrong side. So I had to call them and go, guys, this is wrong. As we're near the end here, any super chats you want to toss in, much obliged. If not, though, I get it. We're all kind of tired and broke after last week. I knew. Going back to the muzzle brake, look at an AK-74 brake, the holes in the expansion chamber behind the main port. You'll notice that they're kind of not symmetrical too. Another fun one, look at the Korean Daewoo K2. That muzzle brake, it looks, or flash hider, it looks like an AR-15 M16A2, but it's actually intentionally clocked offset. Well, on the lower side, in the middle, you have the slot for the bayonet to clear. And then you have on the bottoms, but they're not straight up and down. They're actually kind of going to the side. If you're shooting the gun, the barrel brake, you kind of have holes at about 130, and then you have other holes that maybe, and I'm just kind of spitballing in my head, at about 530 and about 830, I guess. Either way, it works. Yep, I remember in the 80s, no one really, at least that kind of person you're talking about. And I knew boomers that had these guns too, so I'm not disparaging them. But a lot of the AKs and SP1s, that's not good for anything but killing a person. Okay. Uh, and so there was a lot of that attitude about somehow their wood-stocked hunting rifle or shotgun was totally kosher and great, and they use it for self-defense and home defense. But then if you had one of the evil guns with a pistol grip and no wood on it, I don't know. There was definitely a double standard going on there, but I mean, it's nothing new, right? Yeah, I really would like to review the Harrington and Richardson replica rifles. We talked about it earlier in the chat. Just time, energy, and they're just now coming out. Alrighty, guys, we're coming up on 10 o'clock. So, any last minute questions? Lay them on me. Otherwise, I'm going to break off of here pretty soon. Space Cat, going back to, remember the defensive guns? That group, they were always revolvers, too. Oh, and these are the same guys that talked about how wimpy a 9mm was, and they would carry a 38 special revolver, which kind of always made me chuckle. I hear you, Chris. That's what I was gonna give them. And I hate to just leave people. So if anyone's got like something they wanted, you guys, and I've just given my email. You guys are always welcome to email me. Of course, you can always go on Patreon and go over there too. Again, my email is ozarkbeararms@gmail.com. OZARKBEARARMS@gmail. We used to have links to it and everything in YouTube, but they quit that a few years ago. Yeah, the Atlantic does good kit builds. The ones that they definitely do in house, I'd stand by. They're one of the few kit builders I will buy from. No, I've seen some good P1 P38s coming out. I mean, if you order surplus, you're going to get surplus. What I've noticed, if you buy directly from Century, they grade them good, very good plus, excellent. What a lot of vendors do is they'll buy good and takes their chances. And they usually do upsell them as very good. So my best luck with Century Imports has been in the past buying direct from Century. And you can tell what grade it originally was if you have the original hang tag or even the original box. It'll say like HG, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, it'll have G for good or V for very good or X for excellent or F for fair, P for poor. Hey, Rabbit. Yeah, we talked about the WBP 545 guns pretty early on in the chat. Sure, Johnson, anytime. Oh, I love the one box of bullets thing. I knew these people that I still know some that are adamant hunters. And you can look at their ammo supply, and they're still going for the same raggedy box. And they might take a few shells out every year. And yes, they always call them shells for sighting in their hunting gun. But that was it, aside from what they shot at a deer or else. And that's fine. I mean, I don't want to come across as critical, but they enjoy that. Other people can enjoy other things. Heck, I don't even mind if someone who doesn't want to hunt saying that they don't like shooting animals in the face. That's fine. Everyone kind of has their right. Yeah, I think most of the P1s, P38s, they're either going to be from Century or you might see like PW. They're out of Redmond, Washington, I believe. They do some. You also sometimes see R guns imports. I'm just talking in general. I thought that the current batch of P38 P1s were Century marked, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Arizona desert. Yeah, you should meet some of these. And of course, when we say boomers, we're talking people that are verging on 80 years old now today. Keep in mind, a lot of them around here, especially the dyed and wool hunters, they don't stockpile. Again, different strokes. I'm actually going to take credit for more like Gen X being the more stockpiling generation. You know, your folks that are in the, I don't know, what, 40 to 55 range. You're right. Yeah, it gun shops, well before the internet, you bought whatever they had in the shop. I think what really changed that was when surplus really started coming in, and that wasn't until the 90s. At least there were of course batches in the 50s and 60s, but if you look at the 70s and early to mid 80s, surplus was not as readily available. But military guns started coming in, and then cheap, and a new generation came of age, like mine. You know, we were finally legal age to buy guns. I haven't tried the Wasser 3 since we did that video. I will, but guys, you got a lot going on in life, and wasn't exactly a pleasant experience, to be honest with you. I remember J&G and my OPAP came from them, amongst many other guns back in the day. R.I.P. Yep, that completely checks out, Space Cat. especially 3-inch. A couple of years ago, J-Ro accidentally grabbed a box of 3.5-inch and loaded them in his 590A1 in the tube, not in the gun, and then wondered why they wouldn't cycle out. It's like, because they're 3.5-inch. So those got left at the cabin. Are probably still there, but it's like, there are turkey hunters out there. Maybe someone's got a 3.5-inch. We'll just leave them here as kind of a take a penny, live a penny shotgun shell version. But yeah. Yep. Twice, not once, but twice in my life, someone has handed me a French model 1935. I think it was both times were S's, and they were quote unquote unloaded. And I went to rack the slide, and a round flew out. It was probably very green, but yeah, there had been old 7.65 long ammo in there, just a magazine's worth, unfortunately, for Lord knows how long. 2 times. I like shotguns, but it's like a few do me a lot. I don't have a massive shotgun collection. Never felt the need for one. It's like I don't have a massive revolver collection either. And I'm even a little choosy on my handguns, especially modern ones. Now, old handguns, yeah, they're cool. But polymer frame striker guns, I only own a few. Cleaned up as in selling things. I go through now and again and find a couple of guns to sell. A lot of times lately, it's been stuff. Um, Bayonets that I realize I have duplicates of, maybe extra mags, because that's been doing pretty well lately, at least by my standards. As far as actual cleaning, um, I keep them in a gun room with a dehumidifier. That helps. I keep an oily rag around, so typically if I handle something, I'll give it a wipe down. And the one benefit of having mostly military guns is they don't have finishes. They're just super prone to rusting. So if you keep them relatively dry, of course, the one exception would be like Chinese bluing. Jesus Christ, Chinese guns, and just I don't know, because other blued AKs like say Zastava aren't that way, but Chinese sure are. Things I've been trying to find for a while. I mean, outside of just some just randomly weird things, not really. I say that, and then something else like, oh yeah, of course that. But nothing's jumping out at me. It's just really, really want it. Hmm. I mean, a Russian 1907 or 1910 Mosin carbine would be neat. I would definitely jump on one of those. I wouldn't say no to a British number one Mark Six, but most of those got turned into number fours a long time ago. Maybe a German or Czech VZ3340, the so-called Mountaineer carbine. I've had a couple of them, but they just weren't up to my scratch. That'd be kind of neat. But yeah, other than that, nothing major comes to mind. I'm trying to think of pistols, but a Russian PSM would be neat. I passed on one years ago, and I really regret that. So that's probably my biggest regret. Slash, if I found another one for not crazy money, I know they wouldn't be cheap, but yeah, I'm not paying like 10K for a little pistol. Sorry, that's just not happening. But if I could, I'd pick up one of those. I don't know what's coming in the shot show. I haven't really popped my head into that. Nothing has really hit me up. I love to see a Semato Grot and MSBS though. My ARX is doing well. No, I don't think Fox has tried that one yet. Jiro and I have taken it out a few times, but no, I was doing fine. Oh no, she hasn't been able to go back to Russia in years now, and that situation isn't changing anytime soon, unfortunately. Alrighty, guys, I'm gonna bounce unless anyone's got any last minute burning questions on their brain. My voice is wearing out, and I'm getting a little hungry, and there's a few paperwork things I need to do before it's too late in the day. For anyone who doesn't know, I have a personal channel just named Misha that I do just random things on. If anyone cares, I do black boxes and whatever's kind of on my mind at the time. It's a kind of free form brainstorm association place for me. Good night, Catboy. Sorry, it's hard to sometimes listen to my TTS read and respond, so I don't mean to be curt in my responses, but I'm usually listening to my Stephen Hawking sounding voice talk, so sure thing, Nate, anytime. So before I leave, I'm going to try pushing this button. I want to see what it does. Alrighty, guys. I'm about to hit end stream here, so appreciate everyone who pitches in. We'll maybe try to do another one of these at the end of this week. I just wanted to do one tonight, try out a few things, and go over and check out the Patreon, or at least the newer videos. Working on a couple, but mostly trying to get things shipped out too. So, like everything in life, it's a balancing act. But feel free to email me. Check out our link on Patreon. Blah blah blah. You know the deal. I'm tired. My voice is out, so I'm out.